Right.
Again?
Right, so...
I think the way to do this is, because it's a little bit sort of like, I think we need to talk about the trilogy itself.
Yeah, we'll do, but what we just want to do is get the link from you being the Chance.
Okay.
Then you teamed up with your brother, and then the trilogy came.
Okay.
Yeah, so can I just go back to the Chance?
Well, actually, it's not really quite correct, that, because me and Eddie were writing the trilogy before he left, you see.
Oh, yeah. That's what we need to get across, you see. But just ask me, I know.
Okay, so
that's 72.
No. Yeah. Let's just.
So when did you go across to the real thing?
Let's just yeah. Okay. Are we on?
Yeah.
Okay. Round about 1972, my younger brother had formed a group, which would eventually become the real thing, and we started to sort of like write songs together. And as we sort of like built up our repertoire of songs and ideas, we eventually started to feed off Toxteth Liverpool 8, which is where we lived, you know. And eventually we got the idea of writing something that really described the area. So we came up with 3 songs. Liverpool 8, which is basically what the district is called, Liverpool 8, which basically was sort of like a rough sort of like a summary of the sort of like the feelings and stuff and the people living there, you know, and the feelings going round there kind of thing. The second one was Children of the Ghetto, which is how we best describe the people, our peers, people, you know, the people we grew up with, who were sort of like having the same sort of like experiences as ourselves in the area. And the third song, Stanhope Street, was about a street which was at that time one of the main hubs of Liverpool 8. And there you've got the 3 songs. You've got like Liverpool 8, Children of the Ghetto, Stanhope Street. That's basically how the trilogy came together.
And what does the trilogy mean to you?
Well, to me, the trilogy sort of like has come to sort of like mean everything that happened to me as a kid growing up in an area like Toxteth, because I moved away for a while, and when I came back after about 6 or 7 years, I realised and I felt the changes that had gone on since I'd left. The area had become completely politicised, and a lot of my peers, the guys I'd hung around with when I was a kid, were really sort of like into. They got into the political side of it, and they realised that without action, things would never change down there. And I sort of like picked up on all these feelings, and I think Chris did too. Christopher actually never left, so Christopher was sort of like experiencing in ways, a lot of it firsthand. So the trilogy practically came really natural to us, didn't it? In actual fact.
Yeah, well, we are the trilogy, the 3 of us. I mean, that's what we are. The trilogy is us, and we are the trilogy.
We are the children of the ghetto, basically.
Okay. I want to just jump back to the Chance briefly, because I just want to link that back in, and we go for slightly more compressed version.
Okay.
So if you explain to us again where the Chance figured in your starting up the music career.
Well, with the Chance, as the first glow of playing with the Beatles and appearing with them at the concert and stuff started to wear off, we started to wake up to the hard realities of the game as it actually is. And basically, I realised that to make it, I was going to have to develop myself as a musician, as a songwriter. And basically, I learned to do this with the 13 years or so I spent with the Chance. But after 13 years, I realised that, we're not going to make it. And I think Christopher realised it as well. And me and Christopher were getting such a good vibe, sort of like working together and writing, that it was the natural progression for me was to leave the Chance and join the real thing, which I did in 1975.
Okay. The reason I'm doing that again is on the early ones I was getting a buzz, and I think, have you got a mobile phone in your rucksack there?
I have, yeah.
Just watch the mic pack as you do it, but the mic pack's probably right next to it. Is there any chance of switching it off?
Oh yeah, pass it over here, Dan.
Or pass it to Trev, because it's...
And you, Ollie.
I'm watching you, Trev.
It's buzzing across the...
Blackberry Bold.
Don't move, Trev.
Okay, that's good.
to make
So
sure
if you
we
could
do
just
that.
once again, very briefly, just explain. You started off in the Chance, and it was an a cappella group
Yeah.
that started off in 1962. That's all we're looking for just for this little bit. So
Okay.
who were the Chance?
The Chance were a five-piece a cappella group, and we began basically back in 1962. There was myself, Alan Harding, Nat Smeeder, and the Anchor brothers, Joey and Edmund. And basically we just sung harmonies in their sort of like American doo-wop style. And we got our break when Paul McCartney invited us along to the Cavern to audition for him and the rest of the Beatles. They were so knocked out with us that they invited us to appear that same night at the Cavern with them. They got 4 songs off with us. So on we trotted halfway through the show, and they accompanied us for 4 songs, you know. Absolutely amazing experience, screaming girls. We started at the top and worked our way down.
Excellent. That's really good. So I'm going to cut for a second. Chris, tell me, when did the real thing start?
The real thing began back in 1972, round about that time, and it was formed by Dave and I. And basically we were, I would say, an extension of the Chance, because we were looking at what the Chance had done and were very much influenced. But whereas Eddie was more influenced, the Chance were more influenced in the doo-wop, we sort of came about with the sort of the American vocal groups, like the sort of the OJs, the Temptations, and things like that. We were very much influenced by all that, you know. And it started off basically just as fun. We were rehearsing every day, and we developed the sound. It was myself, Dave, Ray Lake, Edward Anchor, and Kenny Davis. Once again, we developed the sound, and we started to sort of get more serious. We started to do little gigs and things around Liverpool. We met an agency in Liverpool that got us onto Opportunity Knocks, which started off to be our really big break, because it enabled us for the first time to really broaden our whole field of work. So we were able to sort of sustain ourselves because of that with Opportunity Knocks. Through Opportunity Knocks, we met our manager and mentor, Tony Hall, who is still our manager up to this day. And Tony was very influential in actually introducing black music into this country. So we hit upon, that was the most important part of our whole career, as a matter of fact, was meeting Tony Hall. As a result of meeting Tony Hall, down the line, we started doing jingles for a guy called Jeff Wayne, who wrote the whole of the War of the Worlds concept. At that time, Jeff Wayne was producing David Essex, and he invited us to come and do some backing vocals for him. By that time, we'd gone down to 3. It was myself, Dave, and Ray Lake. David Essex was absolutely knocked out with the 3 of us, because we were like young, we were exciting, we had a nice sound, and we pushed all the buttons that David Essex liked. Through David Essex, he took us out on tour with him, and all of a sudden we were working to audiences of like 4,000, 5,000 people. Immediately, actually after that tour is when Eddie joined, and almost within 2 or 3 months, we'd acquired the song You To Me Are Everything, which was written by a guy called Ken Gold. We'd acquired that, and while we were actually performing Earl's Court with David Essex, it was actually released. One thing we always remember is the guy from 10cc says, "Oh, this will never be a hit." The lead singer's voice at the end, it's breaking up and things like that. Anyway, within 2 weeks of us doing Earl's Court, it was up to number 1. And basically that's was basically the start of the real thing, really, from the start to our first hit record.
Excellent. Let's move on to the trilogy. From your point of view, what does the trilogy mean to you?
Yeah. Well, as Eddie's explained, Eddie's already explained the trilogy to you. Coming at it from a slightly different angle, we thought that it would be nice to take the trilogy into a live format. Because at that point in time, we didn't really have a vehicle to get ahead. So the only way we could sort of get it out there was to perform it live. And that's why we brought the sort of trilogy into the show. And we, as I say, we like to perform it live, you know. And that's how we became really involved in doing it.
Excellent. Now let's go back to the real thing and when Eddie started with you.
Yeah.
So Eddie, if you just explain when, basically it was 1974, and that's when Eddie teamed up and you. I thought you said 74.
Yeah.
My mistake.
75.
Sorry. It was 1975 was when you teamed up.
Yeah.
And then that's when things went down. You went down not a different path, but then it obviously evolved from there.
Yeah.
So if you can explain from what happened in 1975.
Just so we're not getting confused in this, I mean, what I mean is I joined the real thing in '75.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you mean the same thing. I don't know whether you mean when I actually started to work with Chris. Or
So did you start working with Chris before the real?
Long before.
Yeah.
The trilogy was written long before.
Well, could you explain that? Because that's something I hadn't got from you. But if you explain that the trilogy was
Like the bridge to...
was a bridge between the Chance and it was done while you were still in the Chance.
Just ask me, and I'll go.
So
okay.
So in terms of when was the trilogy done relative to Eddie joining the real thing?
Right. The trilogy was written round about 1974.
74.
Round about 1974. And like Eddie's explained to you, it was a way of us expressing our actual upbringing in Liverpool. The real thing started to become involved with the trilogy as a group when we wanted to take it live. We wanted to take it to the people because that was the only vehicle that we had at the time to sort of get it out there.
And the Chance didn't have the type of audience where we could possibly perform any of them type of songs. So so there was no sort of like argument over sort of like, because for a while we were in two separate bands, Christopher's Real Thing and the Chance, but there's no way that the Chance could take it live because we were working to a completely different type of audience to the Real Thing. So it was dead natural for the Real Thing to actually take it live.
Also, we must point out, at that point in time before Eddie joined, Dave, Ray and myself, we were getting a lot more serious. We felt that there had to be more to the group than doing OJ's songs and covers, and influenced by our manager Tony Hall, who was always solidly behind mine and Eddie's songs. We sort of developed an idea that we had to get out there and do something more serious.
Yeah.
We had to get away from all these sort of Americanisms that we were
doing.
doing.
A lot of covers, weren't we?
Yeah, at the
It
time.
was when we went to the States with David Essex, and we were supposed to be just doing backing vocals for David Essex when we got there, and then he asked us to do a spot before his show, but we didn't have our band with us. So Tony Hall, who came out with us, our manager, he got Miles Davis's band, wasn't it?
That's right.
Jerry Hall.
Yeah.
Got three musos together to back us for the couple of days we were at the bitter end.
Yeah.
Bitter end was it?
Bottom line.
Bottom line.
in
At the
New York,
bottom line. And the first night didn't go too well
Mm-hmm.
because we only had like a couple of hours rehearsal with them on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day we got with them for a rehearsal, and they were amazing.
Yeah.
And we used to wear suits then, uniforms and all that. And when we played with these guys, we just give them up. Suits went, and we just went freestyle. Just do freestyle.
Mm-hmm.
These were great musicians.
Yeah. And also...
That's where all things changed, wasn't it?
And that's also we realised that we had to be ourselves. Basically, that's what Dave's saying. The only way you could be yourself is by performing things that you've written yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why the sort of trilogy became so important to us, because it was one of the most serious things that we'd written up to that point.
Yeah.
Okay, now, how much are you involved in the trilogy, Dave?
Sorry?
Were you involved in the was it you
Not in
guys
the writing,
who wrote
no.
it? Not in the writing?
No.
Okay, so Does the trilogy mean, what does the trilogy mean to you?
It's just a reflection of the background we've come from.
Could you put the trilogy means to me the reflection of the background, because then we can use that as a soundbite then.
It's a ghetto thing. It's ghetto. It's where you're brought up. There's everyone's, you know, in there for themselves. You got to find your own little niche. Our little niche was music.
Excellent, excellent. So the three elements of the trilogy, if you could just explain what the three elements are, what they were to you then, and what they are now. And then that's when we'll go out on the street and do the stuff on the street. So the three elements, if you could say the three elements of the trilogy are.
Okay. So the three elements of the trilogy are this. The first song, Liverpool 8, is Liverpool 8, the area where we grow up. The second part of the trilogy is Children of the Ghetto, and that song represents the people, the youth actually at the time, because we were all really quite young when we wrote that, who were sort of like growing up and experiences the vibes of Liverpool 8. The third song, Stamp Street, represents a street which at that time was one of the main hubs of Liverpool 8. So basically, just to summarise that, you've got sort of like Liverpool 8, the area we grew up in, Children of the Ghetto, ourselves, and the rest of the youth, right? Stanhope Street, the street where we used to kick back in.
That's very good. That's like sums it up. I'll cut there for a second.
So if you just say to me,
so the record.
If you just say to me, how did the trilogy work out or something?
So how did the trilogy work out in terms of the individual tracks?
In terms of commerciality, we knew that the three songs weren't you sort of like put out and play on the radio and get in the charts type tracks, right? But basically, they gave us what I think every band needs, and that's credibility, because we've had some amazing covers on Children of the Ghetto. People like Mary J. Blige, Courtney Pine, Philip Bailey,
Swingle Singers.
Swingle Singers. The list is endless. I've got a whole library of like that regularly gets sent to me.
And a lot of the political rap bands as well. A lot of the Americans have done rap versions of it. We've had things from Indonesia and all over the world, really. It's been really, it's really gotten out there to people, you know.
So how does it make you feel now that you've had, when you started off, in effect, covers were your thing, and now you've got people covering your material?
Well, it makes us feel proud, because there's one thing black groups don't get in this country, is credibility. They don't get that. I don't know why. Most of us are looked upon as novelty bands, to tell you the truth, to be honest, right? And as far as I'm concerned, we've proven a point time and time again. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm so proud of that trilogy.
And also, where we are now, you've got to remember, when we did the trilogy, we were young, and the people that were coming to see us were young. Now, it might be, in them days, that the trilogy might have been a little bit advanced for them, because we were doing things like, you know, like You to Me and things like that. But now, all them people have grown up with us, and they're all really appreciating it a hell of a lot more now.
Yeah.
It's become almost a cult song now, because people listen back to the albums and they think, you know, I didn't used to understand that then, but I really like it now, because the musical taste has broadened.
Yeah.
You could say it was a little bit ahead of its time, really, for where we were.
I go along with that, yeah. I go along with that line of thought.
Excellent. I'll cut once again.
If you're going to say to me, what is your truly most memorable moment?
Okay, what is your most memorable moment of the business?
Okay, most memorable moment. Now, most people would most probably expect us to say, well, getting to number one with You to Me Out Everything. But in actual fact, for me, it was Can You Feel the Force? We'd had the two hits. In fact, we'd had the three hits. We'd had two of which had been written by Ken. The other third one by ourselves, Never Know What You're Missing.
And a couple of top 40s.
Right? But basically, we came up with the song "Can You Feel the Force," right, which literally tore up the chart, you know. And I'll never forget, me and Chris went to do an interview down at Radio 1, and we didn't know what number we'd gone to that day. It was the chart day, and we were expecting 30, 35 or something, you know. And he says, "Can You Feel the Force" is coming to the top 5. That to me is one of the most amazing moments for me.
In the first week.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
to top up, and to really put the icing on the cake, that same week we were working with Michael Jackson at the Rainbow, and there's us at number 5 in the chart, you know. And at that time,
5.
the Jackson 5 weren't in the charts, so you can imagine the feeling working with Michael, and the Jackson 5 was amazing anyway. But being number 5 in the charts at the same time with one of your own songs, fantastic.
And that song that day actually sold 47,000 records. That day.
Even
Just
better.
one day.
That day.
Fantastic. Well, very good.